Good Saturday morning, sports fans. You are listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ. I'm Greg Malinzuk, and in the studio on the other side of the glass is Bob Wiltman.
And great to have you with us, Greg. And, of course, as always, we got Randy V from the station here joining us. But more importantly is our special guest. And we got Coach George Entfeld. And if you've been following us, we had Coach on the radio explaining what was going on. They only had a little trip to, someplace over in Europe called the Netherlands, which I think is an unbelievable trip. And rather than me hog the time, Coach, welcome back. And we can break this up into sessions. First of all, tell me a little bit about how the trip met your expectations and, how you felt the team did.
I think we did terrific. The team performed, or actually we had two teams, the U19 and the U17, but specifically the U19 performed above expectation. And the whole trip, in my idea, was just a big success. I was thrilled.
Well, you know what? That's got if you were thrilled, the kids must have had a phenomenal time. Give me a little bit, break down a little bit competitively about how each of the teams did.
The U19, we actually played in the Drenthe Cup, also the U17, and the highlight was that we reached the finals.
Nice. That's rather impressive.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. We got Randy.
Now, 10 years ago, you went back to the Netherlands. It was 10 years ago. You took a team, right?
That's correct.
Did you win any games with that group?
No.
So
it was a great trip, though, right?
So you must have taken better players this time. No, I'm teasing.
What was different about it this time? Because the boys did. I mean, they did wonderful. They made it all the way up to the Champions Cup.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. The U19 was more competitive, definitely, and I probably had prepared them a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah, that the game is different there than they're used to playing here. In the first place, it's more aggressive, it's faster, and lots of our players are not used to that. It took also a little while before they started stepping up, but during the 2 weeks we were there, you saw quite some drastic improvements in both teams.
A little growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the Drenthe Cup? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
The Drenthe Cup is an international tournament played in Meppel in the northern part of Holland by the end of the season. And it's not like here in the United States. There are only a few tournaments during the year in the Netherlands. For the most attention goes to the regular competition. So for a lot of teams it's the end of season, and to see your new players can fit in, or especially with the U19s, or some players can move up to their men's team, and that's where it's used for. It's pretty well known, and I think there were 1,500 players there.
Yeah, there's several teams there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at some of the pictures that you had posted on Facebook during your 2-week travel abroad. It was pretty neat following you guys. I mean, the whole town was that town square was just packed with kids.
Yes.
I think it was like it would be the opening evening ceremonies.
The Friday before the tournament, we had the opening ceremony. Right. That was at the Central Square in town. And the mayor opened the games, and all national anthems were played for the different countries that were represented. It was very nice. Yeah.
How many countries were there?
There were 8 countries, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you arrive in the Netherlands. I think you you left on Memorial Day. Remember
yes,
that?
We did.
That was a tearful ride back home. But fortunately, Mr. Santos there was taking some great pictures for us and posted them on Facebook. So you arrived in the Netherlands, and that's what it was about 9 or 10 hours later after you left Miami. And then you had a day or two, right, just sort of acclimating to the time difference.
Yes.
And then what was leading up to the Drenthe Cup?
The first what we did was the Tuesday that we arrived, for you arrive a day later, we had a relaxing day. The Wednesday we had a training session from Herman Schonewille. He was an exchange student here in Tavares, the Y, and he's becoming one of the better coaches in the Netherlands. He just got a pretty big coaching job, and we had a session with him for the group at night. Then the next day we went to Westerwolde, where I used to coach, and we played a senior team there that even had players that I coached 12 years ago.
Oh, really?
And right there, that was our first loss. We lost 3-2, but it was very competitive. You could still see the kids were not all used to each other, and they had to get used to the speed and the physical part of the game. But we did pretty well. So there was a good game before the tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to interrupt, Randy, and you've got more pertinent questions as to me, but I'm just curious. What was the biggest component of the game that was so different that the kids had to adjust to? Did you say it was just more physical, or
physical and the speed of the game?
And the speed of it's just
Yeah.
okay, because that's got to be something that you get on the field and I mean you can
Yes.
probably see it in the faces.
Yeah.
Whoop.
What's happening here?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and the emphasis is more on team play than individual play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here you have a lot of players. They are individual pretty
wanna
strong,
dribble.
and they want to
Right.
dribble. But
Dribble
you cannot
and
dribble
yeah.
from one end of the field to the other and score a ball. That's not going to happen. And for some it took a while. Yeah, and but slowly but surely they got it. Yeah, the highlight actually for me personally was our last game against my old team. There was a U21 that we played, and we got 2-0 behind. Then we got 2-2. We got 4-2 behind, and then I got a little bit mad. And then the second half of that game was the best game I have our team ever seen play. We just rolled them up, and we ended up with winning that game 6-4.
Fantastic.
I heard some stories about that game. I'm glad that the result ended the way that it did. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they were from what I understand, the other team was running their mouth on the field a little bit.
Oh boy, that'll
And,
make you mad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then one of the players just said, "Well, you just wait. This game's not over. We're going to win." And then, of course, I guess apparently that was a big laughing event on the field. But nonetheless, that
Yeah.
second half came
How
around.
rewarding is that?
Yeah,
What,
it
what
really-
country
it really
was that
was.
other team from?
In the Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
Actually, that's my old team, and I have a love-hate relationship with them. For still, people blame me that I left and became a pro. So I was like a trader or whatever you want to
sure,
call
yeah,
it.
Because you went pro.
Yeah, you went pro.
That's
yeah.
right.
Gee, what a traitor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the big opportunity of a lifetime. But that's amazing. I'm just looking. We got plenty of time. One of the things I wanted to talk about also is you get this is probably the first time abroad for almost every one of these kids, if not every kid.
Yes, for a lot it was.
So right off the bat, you're going to deal with that wide-eyed wonderment. We're in a different country with people that aren't speaking English. I mean, that's got to be,
Now, the advantage is that 70% of the Dutch population speaks English.
Oh, okay, great.
Especially young people, they almost everywhere speak English. But it was quite a culture shock for quite a few.
And I thought that might translate into the games, but obviously as a coach you didn't let it. But I would just think you feel like you're on a different planet almost.
Yeah.
I mean,
now you could really see that with the younger players.
Yes.
Yeah, the
yeah.
U17 had a tough time.
Sure.
Yeah, but they also grew in the game. We didn't win too many games. We won only 2 games during the whole trip, but. You could see that our players are more from a level that comes from recreational soccer, and then the difference is really big. But everybody learned from it. You saw some players that you didn't expect it from to grow, and other ones that you thought, they would
they
step
were going to come up, and they felt
that's
wilted.
right.
Yeah.
In 14 days, being with these kids 24 hours a day, you learn quite a lot more about these kids than you ever do.
Sure.
Oh, go ahead, Randy.
Well, I was just going to say, hey, if there's any of the coaches' players that were out there in the Netherlands, they'd like to call in, they can give us a call at 315-1410. We'd love to hear about their perspective.
We've got a caller on the line right now.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
Bring her on.
Hey, Trent Yon.
Yes, sir. I am. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Everything's
Good.
going well.
Good.
So you were with Coach George?
Yes, yeah, of course.
Yeah. How are you doing, Trent?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit
about
about
a perspective from one of the kids that played there, and of course, I had to call in and just simply say about talk about how great the trip was.
Nice.
I mean, it was just a phenomenal once in a lifetime trip, and there's just so many things that we did outside of soccer that we can just we can learn from, and just see how lucky we are to have had that experience.
Hey,
And,
Trent, we got the coach telling us what happened. Now, from a player's perspective, what were the what were the things that really impacted you in terms of the culture and the fact that all of a sudden you're in a country where it's soccer crazy, and I mean you've got people that are this is the number one things in their lives. How did that affect you and the guys?
I mean, really, it's inspiring in a way, because here, a lot of the kids. Well, from my experiences, is some clubs and some teams, they don't really take it seriously. They go out there and they just kind of, just mess around and have a good time, which in a way there's nothing wrong with that, but when you're playing competitive, you want to get better. And everybody over there is competitive, it's incredibly competitive, but also they're there to have fun.
Hey Trent, do me a favor. Is there any way we can hold you over for a couple minutes? We've got to
yes, sir.
we got some commercials. Please stay on the line. We want to get right back to you, but we get the music, so we need to take a break.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410. We're sponsored by Bill Bryan Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223, and we'll be right back after these messages. We are back with Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County.
Yeah.
And we have George Invelt in the studio with Randy V and Bob Wiltman, and we got Trent, one of the players.
Get Trent back on here, because we want to grill Trent about this trip a little bit.
You're still there, right, Trent?
I believe I'm still on the line.
for now.
We were teasing Trent. We don't want to hear about the soccer. We want to hear about all the cool things you guys did that the coach didn't know about. No, I'll tell you what. That's for you and I can talk about that separately.
We might need a little bit more time for that one.
But you were telling us a little bit about the differences and how it impacted you guys. If you don't mind, pick up where you left off on that.
Yeah, I was talking about, how the way they play is different over there.
Sure.
In America, a lot of the times when we play another team and we win, they're just kind of, they're always angry about it. They don't really want to shake your hand or anything. But over there, they're a lot more competitive on the field. But after the game's over, it's like it's almost like your best of friends, and they ask you to go drink a beer with them or something like that. And it's just really interesting to see, just the different types of personalities and attitudes that they take onto the field and off the field.
How about the officiating? How'd you feel the officiating was over there?
The officiating was in a way it was different too. They allow a bit more physicality out there.
Sure, I figured. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of the parents that went with us ended up being a sideline ref.
Well, what a surprise!
That works in our advantage.
What a surprise that was! Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like trying to lay on the side that one of our refs was on that way they could call off sides for us. but yeah, the reffing there was really good. So.
Well, let me ask you one thing. Obviously, the soccer and playing that competition is in itself an experience and a great learning curve for everybody. But when you weren't playing soccer, tell me a little bit about how the culture affected you, because that's a different culture you're walking into, European culture, as opposed to what you're used to over here.
Well, the culture there is it's a lot different, of course. But one thing that you really get to have an appreciation for is space, because over here everything's a bit more spaced out, and over there everybody even when the people talk to you over there they're right next to you, so they're really close to you when they talk.
They're close talkers, and I like that.
Yes, and so it's a little bit different, but over there things as small as just like water you really learn an appreciation for here, because their water, a lot of places like Rotterdam, it has to be filtered, and you can't just drink out of, your sink or your refrigerator. And so, water there is very expensive. You have to pay for it, and it comes in very small bottles or cups usually. So you have to get, quite a few of them. And so, just the small things like that, they're different, and you really get to have an appreciation for what you have here in America.
Let's get down to the brass tacks. I want to know about the food.
The food? All right. Well, actually, the food over there was amazing. We stayed at the Borkerhof, I believe it was called.
That's correct, friend.
We had a restaurant, and they cooked for us every night, and
wow.
They gave us lunch, breakfast, and dinner. And for breakfast, every morning we would have yogurt, we would have sandwiches, all types of meats and cheeses, and then we would have fruit. And then for lunch kind of we ate out sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we had pizza and one of the things there that you always have to get when you go there are Stroopwafels. Those were those were the best foods there probably.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a very thin waffle with a small layer of caramel in between, and they're just really good.
They're addictive. You cannot. You eat the whole pack.
That's not supposed to be a lunch. That's supposed to be an in between.
That's not a training table thing. I didn't think so.
That's right.
Okay, how about the pizza? What's the Netherlands pizza like?
It's a little different. They put pineapple on their pizza and stuff, and in my opinion, that's frowned upon. You don't put fruit on my pizza.
That's a sacrilege. Yeah, that's right. I like that.
But it tasted good. It was different over there, and it was a lot more dense. There's a bit more bread, and it was still really good.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I got some complaints about the food.
I didn't mean.
I saw you went to the McDonald's one time.
Oh, McDonald's.
We had sandwiches with only one slice of ham in between.
That's a cause for alarm. Well, let me get you back to the soccer then, Trent. Okay, so you're competing, and Coach George was telling us it's a little more physical, a little faster over there. Was it a tough adjustment for you to make as a player?
The first game, I think the time that we played the adults and some of Coach George's old players, that game was a bit more difficult because we were, they were experienced. Some of them weren't as fast as us, but some of them were really fast, and it was a pretty difficult adjustment as a player. But when you're going to the Netherlands, you kind of prepare yourself mentally for a much faster, more physical game. So we had plenty of time to do that. So I was out there, and I was ready for how fast they were going to be, and they didn't. Oh wow, I'm out of lost words.
That's okay.
But they certainly met my expectations. They were incredibly fast.
They were as good as you thought.
Yeah, they were great players, and they had great control and everything you needed in a soccer player.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, let me also ask you. Okay, so you get together with the guys on the team. How do you talk about it when you're on the field? Do you talk about it when you're off the field in terms of how you can adjust to what they're doing? Is that something that's just a learning curve, or you have to learn as you go on during the game, or is there a simple adjustment you can make that everybody can buy into?
I believe that it is kind of something that you have to go out there on the field and experience for yourself. Because nobody's ever played against people of this caliber before, and so it's a big change in talent. And once the whole team adjusts, though, we can kind of just play as if we were playing a team that we play here in America. And we got to work together as a team. We got to shift as a team. And once we get that down, then we're pretty much settled into the rhythm of the game.
Last question for you, and I'll let the other guys take over. But, okay, now you're back in America. Now the game's slowed down a little bit. It's not as physical. Is that something, do you find the game now to be a little less stressful for you, or do you have to almost dumb down and come back and play American soccer? Is there an adjustment to it?
Oh, yes, there is definitely an adjustment to it. Because even the small things, just as, the players, for their first touch on the ball, it's much worse than what it is in the Netherlands, and you can just see where they're going in a way. And I feel like I've been playing on a way different level for so long. I come back here, and then the level's it's lower, and it's almost amazing just to see how much experience you got just from 2 weeks of playing soccer in another country.
Well, let me ask you that, Coach. So, okay, you got the guys coming back, and they've seen that higher level, and now they're not saying that as they're competing, the teams they're playing against here, did they get lackadaisical, or do they get? I mean, I don't want to see them. Or do you feel like they're not trying as hard? I mean, I don't want to put it that way. That sounds bad, but
No,
I mean,
but
you
they
gotta be
will-
alert.
They will fall back to the old
Bad habits.
bad
Yeah,
habits,
yeah.
and that is normal. For if you don't, I always say, if you want to get better, you have to play at the top of your level all the time. And unfortunately, that's not happening here
Well,
all the time.
they're not going to be
But
challenged.
They're
No.
not challenged,
No.
so they start roaming around again and not getting rid of the ball fast enough. So the speed right away is lower. But for them, they have experienced it.
Yes.
So for some players who are going to college, I think it's a big advantage
Oh, it's a
that,
huge
that,
advantage.
that they play there. And for some players, if they had been living in Holland, I know that some clubs really would have liked to keep him.
Yeah.
Yeah, for American players, that's of course a little bit different. Yeah, then you have to be super, super, super. But some players, just rose above whatever you can expect from them. Yeah, I saw some developments in 2 weeks' time that were just incredible. And yeah, some players that you expected a little bit more, it took them a little bit longer. Yeah, the culture, being away from home, these things play a role. And but overall, it was very good also for the younger ones. Yeah, for the younger ones, basically, are just coming from a recreational sport to a competitive sport, and then suddenly to a sport in the Netherlands, where it's not only a sport, but it's like also a social function. They also have seen how a club functions there. Yeah, totally different than here, and only that experience that is yeah. You can pay for that.
Right.
Yeah, after the game, especially. Yeah, kids sit together, parents sit together, and they talk. Here, everybody disappears.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
You come and you go, but there it's a social function. I met guys that I've known for 60 years and still saw them. Yeah, and they came out. So that's wonderful. You don't have that here.
I think that's fabulous.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Trent, do you find that that's going to help you go to play collegiately? Is this, has it opened your eyes? I mean, you can see what you're getting into.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've tried to take back to America what I've learned from the Netherlands, the small time I was there, and hopefully apply that, to my game and make myself a better player.
Well,
And,
I think that's fantastic, because I would think, and I'm not trying to be callous about this, I would think when you're exposed to that level of competition, that the cream will rise to the top, in the sense of the ones that are really serious about soccer and want to take it to the next level will apply the things that they learned on the European trip, and the guys that aren't that serious about it are going to probably fall back into their old habits and probably not play, intercollegiate soccer. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
No, that's
Yeah.
definitely the case.
Yeah.
And also for quite a few of them, I always ask the kids when I explain something and how I want them to play, do you understand what I mean? Now, they always say, yes, coach, we know. Yes, coach, we know.
Oh, yeah,
But
shut up. We got it.
That's right. But now,
yeah.
they have seen what I meant.
Now I really see
Now
what you
they
mean.
really experienced it. Yeah, so that was the important part of it.
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
Hey, Trent, I'll tell you what. We thank you so much for calling. Is there anything you want to share with us about the trip?
I think that might be it.
Well, we can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
To
Thanks,
hear
Trent.
a well-spoken young man like yourself, it's going to take the valuable things that he learned on the trip and apply it to his later efforts on the soccer field. I just think it's fantastic. We thank you very much for calling in. Hey, best of luck to you and all your endeavors. And Coach George picked a good one with you, pal. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me.
Hey, thanks
Hey,
so
have a
much,
good
pal.
day.
Take care.
Have a good day.
You bet.
You too.
What a well-spoken young man he is.
Yeah.
He is one
He,
great.
he definitely is. He's really a leader. Yeah,
Well, that's what you need.
in all aspects. And that shows in those 2 weeks. Yeah, the leaders they come to the top automatically. You don't have to do anything, and the ones that you think are leaders sometimes they
They'll
just
disappoint you a little bit.
Yeah,
sure. Well,
no, I was not disappointed in any player really, but the ones that became leaders, I was surprised with some
Yeah,
of them.
yeah.
I really was.
Well, what a rewarding experience. I mean, it's a surprise in some instance, but to see the people rise to the top. I mean, even for that young man Trent to be the guy, the first one to call in and talk about the trip. I mean, that's
Right.
what a leader would do.
Yeah.
A guy said, "I'm going to go. Okay, I'll get the ball rolling." That's what you like to see, which is, I think, fantastic.
I'll tell you what I think about it, and that's important.
Oh, my gosh.
As a coach, you're on the sideline. You can tell them all kinds of things, but on the field, the experience is still different. And I don't hear what they say to each other, and I cannot look in their brains. Sometimes I know they give me answers that I know that they know
Stock answers.
what I want to hear.
That's right, yep.
While they say, no, what is he where is he talking about? Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Randy.
Well, I was just going to. You're going to start coaching again right here locally, right? You're going to put together some more teams. The
Yes.
Leesburg Riders. That
The
was your
Leesburg
team
Riders,
in the
yes.
Netherlands, right?
Yes, we do.
So what
Yeah.
age groups are you going to be coaching?
We will have U13, U15, and U19 probably in boys, and U19 girls. That's what we're looking for right now.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, if there's some listeners out there, parents, kids alike, how would they go and register?
They just can go to our website, or they can come just to the field. Tuesdays and Thursdays we're always there from 6 till 8 o'clock.
And that's at Sleepy Hollow?
Sleepy Hollow,
Okay,
yes,
so it's
yeah.
the Leesburg complex there,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
All right, and that's Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
All right, very good.
And I heard you also talking, and with the guys who took a trip now, you say there's a girls' trip in the works, right?
It's
Well, I don't want to.
They want to go, and they said we'll go, and we're looking at spring break.
Okay.
So we'll see what comes out of it.
How are you going? Are you going to be able to hold up?
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a lot of traveling.
That's a lot tougher. Yeah,
Smaller group and
it's easier and we had 36 people, and every time when we get on the bus, you have to do a count for. You don't want to leave anybody behind.
Yeah, you don't want to leave anybody in Amsterdam.
That's right.
That's right. That's no good. You don't want that to happen.
No, so we were very lucky. There were no major incidents. One time we were afraid that one of our players broke his leg.
Oh, no.
And he went to the hospital right away, and it worked out. It wasn't. So we
X-rays
were
were
really,
negative.
really relieved.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. The more people you have, the more chance there is of
That
something like
anything
that.
happens.
And Randy, I didn't mean to step on your toes, but while I was thinking about this, so you have that many players, and you're trying to be competitive. There's also the aspect of getting them to play, getting them all on the. Were you able to get them all on the field sufficiently? Obviously, everybody's going to say, "Well, I could have played more." Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
blah.
yeah,
But you still.
We gave everybody a chance.
That's all you can do.
Yeah,
That's all you can ask. That's all you can.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between playing to win and playing to get guys experience. But when you have to do both, really a challenge for a coach.
It is a challenge, and we are competitive, so we want to win.
Sure.
Yeah, and I always say, when you join our club, you're guaranteed the practices. You're not guaranteed a team and a spot on the team. You have to earn your spot, and you have to earn your position. That is competitive soccer.
Well, that's unfortunately not the American way. Sometimes
I know, but
everybody gets a spot, and
and unfortunately, I know what it is to sit on the bench. I've been on the bench, so there is not one player who wants to sit on the bench.
Nobody.
If you want to sit on the bench, then you're not competitive enough.
Right.
So I know it's very hard, but it's part of it. And sometimes a bench player can make the difference.
Sure.
So everybody is important. And next to your position, everybody wants to play forward. Everybody wants to score goals. But we need a team. We don't need individuals. And a team is as strong as the weakest player. So the left back is as important as the center forward. While a lot of people look, he's a back. Now, if I was a player right now and I wanted to go to college or higher up, I would try to be a defender and a left or a right back, for there are not too many. So lots of teams are always looking
That's
for
where
these
the
guys.
opportunity
Yep,
is.
right.
I'll tell you what. Can we carry over for the last segment?
Yes,
we got another 20-minute segment. Can we have you?
Of course.
Fantastic, because the music's playing, but we'll get you back for one more 20-minute segment. Thanks, Coach. What do you got, Greg?
All right. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We are sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. And we will be right back after these messages. We are back with Red Zone Radio Sports here in WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. Sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. And we're here with Randy, Bob, and Coach George.
And we were just talking a little bit, and Coach is going to stay with us through until the rest of the hour. And he has a great story we want to leave time for at the end of that. But wanted to talk. We were just talking a little bit off the air about how this trip manifests itself. Coach George has been not inundated, but he's getting calls now from parents that want to know how they can get involved, how they can get their kids involved, which is great up to a point. But they're going to be pulling George in 5,000 different directions. What do you want to see be the biggest outcome of this trip for you? The interest in the soccer when it comes back, the word of mouth about how different the soccer is and what a great learning experience it is. What do you think's the number one thing you want kids to bring back from this?
No, I like them to bring back a competitive nature.
Great.
Yeah, that you play to win,
Mm-hmm.
and winning is not the only thing. But at the end, you have to win. There are goals on the field, and you have to score goals. Otherwise, we just would kick the ball around. And you have to also learn from your mistakes. And soccer player, you cannot learn soccer within 2-3 months or half a year. A soccer player learns soccer through his mistakes. And that's a big part of it. And also the enjoyment. If you don't, as a young guy, have fun in your game, it's not going to work. And what I like to see is that, especially Leesburg and Lake County, that the level of play goes up. We have the talent, but not always the competition to develop that talent. The Greater Central Florida League has some flaws, in my opinion. Often tournaments are more important than the league, and you see that in different countries that's the opposite. The league is important, and a tournament is just a little bit extra.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would like to see. That not only high school, for high school get attention, but it's also the regular league before high school and after high school. And that's what I try to promote.
Hopefully those 26 players that you brought back from the Netherlands will help infuse that level of competition here locally and bring it up a notch, because it's so important not to play down to the level of your competition, especially when you've just come back from such a high competitive level of play. And so I would encourage them to keep that up no matter what field they're on locally, whether it's in Lake County or through the state. Just pretend that you're playing against, whether it's France or whether it's Germany or whether it's from the Netherlands.
No, it's true. And I don't care where the players are going to play. There are enough clubs, but just play and enjoy it and try to play the game the way it's supposed to be played right now. You're not the only player on the field. Yeah, some kids think, especially when they're young, that they are the only player. And often it's promoted that way, and I call it give the ball to Johnny soccer. For Johnny is 10 years old, and he's faster and bigger than anybody else. So you give the ball to Johnny, and he scores, and we win. But the rest, he doesn't develop. Then once he's 14, it's get already a little bit tougher.
Everybody's bigger than Johnny
That's
now.
right. And then when he's 16, Johnny is saying, I'm not scoring that many goals anymore.
It's not fun.
It's no fun anymore, and he quits. While Johnny had talent, but it's not developed. And that you see that a lot, and that's a pity. Also, the increase in cost for soccer are extreme.
Mm-hmm.
We try to keep it as low as possible. If you join our club, a season is only $200. Mm-hmm. Now you cannot play in Florida for $200.
That's a bargain.
But nobody has to make money. The city doesn't charge us for the fields. We have some parents, and even people who are non-parents that support us financially, and that is incredible. We look for some sponsors on the jerseys, and so we try to keep it as low as possible. Coaches, we have very good coaches. They're all volunteers, and that's part of it. Yeah. I want to come back to what Trenton said about the linesman. We are not used to it. In Europe, or especially in Holland, the referee is the only assigned official on the field.
Yeah, sure.
The linesmen are just volunteers from the club. Nobody gets paid. It's just, that's the way it goes. Here, a game for a U19 cost about $140, $150 in referee fees.
Wow.
Yeah.
3 of them.
Yeah,
Sure.
and they all have to get paid. And then, if you question their performance,
Out comes the cards, right?
With a few other hands with fingers on them. Yeah,
That's right.
You got to be careful
Yeah.
about that.
And next to that, I know that you guys are really interested in the little bag that I brought in here.
I love
But
it.
that's a very personal story. In that bag is a jersey that was worn by Johan Cruyff. And Johan Cruyff, in my eyes, was one of the best players this world ever had. And he wore that jersey in the game from Holland against Brazil in 1974 in the semi-finals in Germany. And I was fortunate that I had some contact with him through Puma, and I got hold of that jersey, or he gave it to me. And at that time, I had a little sports shop that I sold to a gentleman, and I had given him the jersey to expose it for advertising, with the idea that he would give it back to me, but he never did, and that was 40 years ago. So that jersey was gone for 40 years. After the game that we played against my old club, the treasurer came to me, and he was the son-in-law of the guy who owned the shop, who passed away in the meantime. He said, "George, I have a question." He said, "Is that really true about that jersey?" I said, "Yeah, that is true about that jersey." And he didn't say anything. That jersey was really what it all said. I said, "It's true." He said, "You won't believe it. I have had that jersey in my desk, in my office for 40 years. He said, "Right now, I'll go to my office, and I'll go and I'll get it, and I'll give it back to you." This is a unique jersey for, at that time, Holland played in Adidas outfits with 3 stripes. This jersey, as you guys saw it already, had only 2.
Yeah.
And number 14.
Boy.
That for me is a treasure that suddenly showed up after 40 years.
Well,
How
I
amazing
hope you're going to hold on to it this time.
I will.
Coach.
I will.
I wouldn't be giving this out for
I got a sports memorabilia shop. Can I use that?
Yeah, I would. But what a great story! Can you
Yeah.
imagine having a jersey that means so much, and through unfortunate circumstances it disappears, and you lose track of it, and he takes a trip to the Netherlands. After 40 years, a guy hunts him down and says, "By the way, I got that jersey for." I mean, I just think that's great.
It was,
that's
really.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
an amazing story.
It really was.
That's
was
better
amazing.
than the 30-pound cheese wheel you brought back home.
Yeah. That's for sure. But and I have one more anecdote. And the last game that we played, I went into the clubhouse, and then Coach Scott came to me. He said, "The boys want to talk to you."
Uh-oh.
And I thought, "Oh man, this is going to be something." I had the feeling for the last few days something was happening. They were asking questions and things like that. So I had the idea, once I walk in that locker room, that probably a bucket of water goes all over me. And then the captain came to me. He said, "Coach, we have something for you. We know you're not a big drinker, but in the wintertime, especially after dinner, you like to drink a nice cognac.
Oh.
And we appreciate this trip so much. Every teammate, every kid on this group, put a few dollars together, and they gave me a wonderful bottle of cognac.
Oh, how great!
And
is
that was really a highlight of the trip for me.
Well, that's just what it shows. A couple of things. First, shows how important you are to them, how much you mean to them, and obviously how much you treat them with respect and treat them like adults and not like little kids.
I try to. Sometimes I think I'm a little bit too hard on it, but on the other side, you cannot get better if you don't get pushed.
They're old enough to be pushed. I mean, if they were 8 or 7, I could say maybe. But now they're at the point. Yeah. And one of the things we were all talking about off the air too, and we were talking about the situation you're dealing with. Some of the you got a lot of kids on the trip, and some of them probably don't get to play as much as some of the other ones. And I said the hardest thing in the world has got to be go abroad and play in a competitive where you want to win, but you still have that label of I've got to get everybody on the field for X amount of time. And I'm glad to see that you get everybody on, but you know what? You have to earn your way on, and I agree with that.
Yeah, but on the other side, I have the philosophy when you go on a trip that like that, everybody has to play.
Well, sure.
Yeah, sure. But how long you play is up to yourself.
That's right.
You have to earn that, and also the position. Often is I want to play that position. I want to play that position. You have to earn that position. It's the task of the coach to put you in a position. As a coach, it's not only to make the players technical better, but to use their skills at the right place at the right time.
Right.
I just think that's fantastic. Can you imagine? I want to know who bought the cognac. I want to see what kid went in with.
I think you can buy it at 18 over there, though, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
I didn't even think about that. That's right. That was old ad.
I thought it was like 12.
In fact, when they go over again,
cheese.
When they go over again, Coach, I'll give you a few bucks. You get me a couple of bottles of that cognac. No, that's fantastic. No, what a great story. And Randy, I wanted to also you're going to be beating the drum tonight, right?
I am going to be beating the drums tonight at at another soccer game we have going on. It's going to be the Villages SC, which is a PDL team up in the Villages, and they're going to be taking on the South Florida Surf tonight. Surf. That's going to be at 6 o'clock, and that's going to be at the Polo Fields.
Oh, it is at the Polo Fields.
Yep, at the Polo Fields. It's a home game tonight. Hopefully the rain will stay away just for a couple hours anyway.
It'll probably about 4 o'clock for an hour. You're going to get some rain like you always do around there.
Yeah, but it's a great venue to watch a game, and there's still some single game tickets out there for sale. You can get them at the gate, or you can go online and purchase them at thevillagesSC.com. But you can just buy them right there at the gate too. They're $8. And
explain when I said Randy banging the drum. Explain what we mean by that.
Oh yeah. We I like to play the percussions during the soccer game. So and I was fortunate enough to have some of the Leesburg, some kids from the Leesburg High School, from the marching band, join me. So I have Simon, Lena, and Andrew joining me tonight. And Lena and Simon bring their tenors, which is a sort of a drum set with 5 different drums on it, smaller ones, of course, and they march along with those. And then Andrew and I generally bring the bass, and Andrew plays whatever, because, all those kids are extremely talented. So they sort of play around me. I just bring the bass, and I set the cadence for the music, and just have a great time.
Only make sure you're not sitting right in front of them.
Yeah, with my luck, I'll get the guy. You get that nice seat, and all of a sudden the guy sits down beside you. Go, okay.
It's not real.
Bang,
it's
bang.
not a real soccer game if there's not drums playing somewhere. All right. I wanted to bring those drums to every game I've gone to, but either my wife or my kid wouldn't let me. But this is one game that they encourage participation from the stands, and so we do that because it's a lot of fun, and it is soccer. If you've been to the Orlando City game or Orlando Pride or any other kind of ball, soccer ball, you always have drums.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that we went to a qualifying game for the World Cup, Holland against Luxembourg, and it was a sold-out game. For normally Holland-Luxembourg is not that interesting, but Holland had to win. So there was a lot of interest, and there was quite an experience for everybody.
And Holland came out on top, right? That was 5-0, I think?
5-0.
5-0.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I just wanted to say for the guys on your team that the highest paid player in the world is a soccer player, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So, and LeBron James is number 2.
Number 2, yeah.
But so there you go.
And when you think of sports franchises, the most expensive ones and most profitable, they're not football.
No,
they're football.
Yeah.
Football.
Football. Real football.
And here's my last question, because I know we're going to run out of time. But Greg and I were talking away. Has there ever been any type of a Deflategate with soccer balls? Did you ever say, "Hey, these balls aren't"? Did you ever get in a game and go, "There's something wrong with these balls? They're not inflated properly"?
It's happened that a couple times, and the kids just throw them back off the field and get another ball.
Okay,
well, that's right.
I was going to.
That's the extent of the controversy.
Yeah, just kick it off. We don't want that
No,
one.
I
anymore.
think the big controversy in soccer is they don't pay their taxes. They
At the moment,
threaten
that's
prison and stuff.
Yeah.
Ronaldo and Messi have both a tax problem.
Well, thanks for bringing that on a closing.
Well,
note.
you were
Thanks so
looking
much
for controversy. I had to do
Hey,
it.
well, I'll tell you what.
I wished I had that problem.
Well, like I said, I'm Bob Wiltman. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much to Coach George and to Randy. It was a fantastic hour. Went by at the drop of a hat. It was unbelievable how fast it went. I thank you so much for everything you do for
You're
the
welcome.
kids. You're a phenomenal coach and a phenomenal person.
Yes, he is.
And Randy, thank you so
Hey,
much.
always
because,
a pleasure coming
It's
in.
always a pleasure. And like I said, if we can get a second hour as good as this first one, you and I should get some kind of an award, Greg.
All right, we
It's going to
will.
be tough to beat.
It is. Thank you, gentlemen. You are listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County, sponsored by Bill Bryan, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Their phone number is 352-787-2223, and we'll be right back after these messages. We are back with Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410. This is Hour 2, brought to you by Bill Bryan, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. And that was a lot of fun.
That, you know what, Coach George is great. Randy's, very knowledgeable, and like I said, they're both. Here's guys that are ultimately dedicated to soccer, and it's the promotion of it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of caveats that come with it. Kids got to learn the right way to behave. They got to
Right.
learn that sometimes not everybody gets a trophy, in the sense that everybody gets to play, but one guy may play a little more than you because he's earned it a little more. And
Right.
when you get on the field, show me you want it. And I mean, that's a good way to coach. I think you can tell who wants to be out there, and who there's some guys that are just there to be part of the experience.
Yeah.
Wave to the fans, hi mom, but they're not really into it. And but that, like I said, I've coached not nearly at the level that Coach George has, but that's always a real challenge, trying to keep the parents and the kids. Because it's not we're not all equal, in the sense that some guys are really good, and some guys are subs sometimes, and that's the way it's got to be.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. But do you have any rants to start off with? Where do you want to go with?
I don't have any really rants, but I've got a lot of little snippets of
I love
stuff.
snippets. I'm a snippet guy.
So I got a baseball question for you. Coming up in August, the baseball is going to allow the players to do a little freestyling on their uniforms for a couple of days.
Why?
I
I
don't
didn't know about that.
I don't know why. I don't know why, but
You mean like putting
a nickname on the back, or something like that. I don't.
how much money they make?
Yeah, I doubt you'll see that. But
Their agent's name.
it's there's only one player right now who, on his jersey, has his first name, and that's Ichiro.
Yes.
And you have to get special permission from Major League Baseball to use your first name. So, can you tell me who the last guy who had his first name on his jersey? And I'll give you a hint. He is a 1980s player. Well, this happened in the 80s, but he started his career in the 70s. But this happened in the 80s. And
his first name.
yeah, instead of his last
Had
name.
to be somebody with a ridiculous last name.
No, actually it's not.
No. Okay.
All right, I'll narrow it down. He was a San Francisco Giant in the
Okay.
80s.
All right. But I'm going to go through all the Giants I remember.
He's probably more well known for another team, but I think the A's.
Oh. I'm not going to waste time.
Okay, I'll narrow it down to a pitcher.
Yes. Okay. It's a pitcher. The
Yep.
pitch for the Giants.
Yep.
And but it's not. It's not. It's not.
No, no.
Okay, or whatever the guy's name.
Nope.
That's a pitcher. And is he Japanese?
No.
Oh crap! How about Raleigh?
Nope.
Who was it?
Vita Blue.
I like it.
Yeah.
So it just said Vita.
He had Vita on his.
That's an interesting trivia question, and that
That
makes
was
all the
fun.
sense in the world to me.
So I just brought that up because of what
I love it.
Major
That's-
League Baseball is going to be doing in August with this freestyling of the jerseys. So
Is that well? You know what? I guarantee you they're not going to go back then. If it's well received, everybody's
Yeah.
going to be
well, the question I saw in the Yankee game,
the bowl or something.
because this brings up another question. You know, the Yankees don't have last.
They don't
names.
have last names on their
Right.
jerseys ever.
So-
and I like that.
Right.
That's old school baseball.
So you know, there's only they're actually the only team
Right.
that doesn't have the names on the home and away jersey.
Right.
But there are two teams that have no names on the home jersey but have it on the away jersey. Do you know those two teams? You watched one of them last night.
I did.
Yeah.
Is it really? Is it the Red Sox?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to say I thought they didn't have one either. That's how much I'm paying attention. I said, boy, I don't remember seeing
Right.
the name. Okay, the Red Sox, and how about Toronto?
No, it's the Giants.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Me too. I didn't.
Well, I learned a lot, and you know,
I assumed actually that there were more teams with no names on the back, but I was wrong.
I could have sworn. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for that, Greg. All the people that thought maybe this guy doesn't know that much, but then they just had their suspicions
Validated, right?
validated. I like that. Oh, and by the way, a couple things. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You had something
Well,
else?
I have an NBA quote of the day.
I like 'em.
So they had their draft, and
Yes.
and the Chicago Bulls traded Jimmy Butler to, I think,
Minnesota.
Yeah. So his trainer said, "I've met drug dealers with better morals than their GM." Talking about Chicago Bulls GM Gar Forman.
Okay, it's always something nice to be said.
Yeah.
But and one thing I just want to throw this in as a favor to a friend of mine, but we have something huge coming up next week.
Oh, that's right.
And this is not something for anybody that's ever ridden a bike should be onto this big time. I've had this explained to me.
Right.
But the Tour de France, and I apologize to my foreign correspondent, Andrew, who always gives me a rundown because she lives for this Tour de France.
Right.
She can tell you every street, every cobblestone, every guy that participates. And this year I know Chris Froome is trying to repeat. He won last year, but you want to keep your guy in Ricky Bolt and some guy named Chris Bardet, I believe. Big. I don't. They're not the. She told me the top 10, and I can't pronounce four of their names. And so, but I think it's time to get ready for the Tour de France.
Yeah.
And
When does that start?
it starts? I think July 1st.
Oh, okay.
And it goes 21 days. I think it goes to the 22nd or something.
All right. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to have her call in and
That's
have
exactly
some
right.
updates.
I told her. I said we're gonna, and we'll be on the air the Saturday.
Sure.
So that'll be like the day before the final leg. So I'll have her
Right.
call in, and we will get to the bottom
All right.
of what's going on
And
the
we
Tour de
won't even
France.
save that for hour 4. We'll do it right in the first hour.
Hour 4, hour 5, whenever we think. Right after some of the other stuff we always table or put on the agenda
That's
last
right.
minute. No, but you'll look forward to that. But like I said, good point that everybody has ridden a bike, and I do think you have to be an athlete. But I don't think you have to be an athlete to ride the bike.
Yeah.
No, the bottom line is I think that's great. And but any sport where somebody can run out and hit you with a sign while you drive by.
Right. Well, I like that aspect of it.
You're right. That maybe we can pick her brain when she calls in. But that's just to let you know that is coming, and I'm looking forward to that. But I'm afraid I'm gonna have to learn to be real knowledgeable about that in a short amount of time, and I may or may not pass the test if
So-
you get my drift.
We do a lot of preparation for this show.
Absolutely.
I want to say I hope
We
the
buy a
listeners-
newspaper 5 minutes before we
I
come
hope-
on the air.
Well, see,
You do.
The listeners, they need to know that I've spent hours in preparation, days and days. So I've got to cram a lot of information into the final hour here because we, had a special guest today. So we have to do 2 hours of stuff in 1 hour. So I'll mention the College World Series, and I'll mention that.
Fantastic.
I'll mention that because Florida, the Gators are in it. They did lose last night to TCU,
But it's a double elimination.
Yeah. So they still, that was their first loss.
And Oregon, who was the number 1 seed, lost their first game.
Right.
So they have to go back to the drawing. I forget who they're playing. Is it Louisville? No, it's Texas A&M. No, it's Texas Christian. TCU.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my point is the Gators still have a shot at
Good.
winning that. So
That's fantastic.
I wanted to bring up that.
Local flavor on that. That's fantastic.
Then there was the NHL expansion draft.
How cool is that? Las
And
Vegas trying to get their.
The Las Vegas Golden Knights. And I'm bringing this up because they apparently Pittsburgh left Marc-Andre Fleury.
And that was an
unprotected
agreement.
and-
That was an agreement because he was making $6 million, and they weren't going to pay a goalie $6 million to be a backup to Murray.
Right.
But he's still a top-notch goalie.
Right.
He's only 31. He can play for another 5-6 years
Right.
and be good for them.
Yeah.
So I mean, it worked out great because he
Yeah.
didn't want to ride the bench.
Right.
He was instrumental in getting the Penguins to the Stanley Cup. They had to go play Washington Capitals in the quarterfinals, who were the best team in hockey.
Right.
And in Washington, Game 7, he shut them out.
Yeah.
So he's not chopped liver.
No,
He's a
he's
very,
not. Right.
very good goalie.
Yep. So
Different goalie than Murray. Murray's big, tall, stay at
Right.
home. Fleury's like a little bouncing guy. He's all over the place, but
Right.
very good goalie. But they also picked up some pretty good players. So, and I think it was worked out like the baseball draft used to be in the old days when they had the expansion where you can protect
yeah.
so many players. And once one, you have to leave, I guess, 8 players unprotected. But the minute somebody takes one of them, you can take 4 more off that list.
Right.
So, and I think that's how they did it. But they're going to have a respectable talent pool for a team.
Right.
So we'll see where it gets us. How many people? I'm still wondering who's going to go to the games in Las Vegas. But
It's probably a lot of comp tickets from the.
you know what? The casinos will
yeah.
probably buy the
Yep.
tickets and comp people. You know what? That's a real. I didn't even think about that. That's how clueless I am. But that makes all the sense in the world. Yeah. Why not have the casinos buy them and
Yeah.
comp their big spenders?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I actually don't think they'll have a problem with filling the stadium. What I probably think
Keeping
they'll
the
have-
stadium cool, keeping the ice cold. That might be
What I
tough.
think they'll have a problem is building up like a big fan base from.
Well,
that
that's
area.
right. Well, and which you need to do. That's right.
Because if the fans are shut out from watching the games in person, they might not really be excited to try to support the team. So you got to balance that.
Well, the whole world's watching because this is Las Vegas' first professional team.
Right.
And I guarantee if it takes off, baseball look at it.
Right.
Football,
Well, the Oakland Raiders.
the Oakland Raiders are just they're so disloyal. They're just looking to break a lease and go
Yeah.
over to play in Vegas if they can.
because I know the stadium deal has fallen through a couple of
Right,
times.
right.
but,
Yeah, they're not getting the people don't
yeah.
want to pay for the
Right.
stadium. But that's all stuff to consider. No, those are great points.
And then along with the NHL draft and expansion draft, there was the NBA draft,
Yes.
and the Sixers. Had
No
the first pick.
surprises. No surprises, right? They took Fultz. Is that
Fultz,
his name?
yeah, Mark
Yeah.
Fultz.
And Ball went in the second pick. And
for the Lakers.
I have no problem telling you that he may be the nicest player and the greatest guy in the world,
Right.
but only because I only see his father shooting his mouth off.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't play well.
Yeah.
Because I find he's trying to play and he's probably smart enough to realize that these are lemmings. A lot of the media
Yeah.
people, they'll just run to him.
Yeah.
But he is making promises. He's writing
Yeah.
checks that his son
Wow.
might not be able to cash.
Right.
And I guess his kid's not going to say anything to him, but he can't be telling everybody, well, I guarantee you we're going to beat these guys, and I guarantee we're going to beat. He has no idea, but, the media naturally, every time he shows up, and this isn't the kid, this is the kid's father.
Yeah.
They got a microphone in the kid's father's mouth.
Right.
And he's already, in fact, his younger son, who hasn't even started his college career yet, he's already got him, pegged and marketed. He's going to play 1 year, and they're playing in Los Angeles, so I guess he was smart enough to realize you can play there and
Right.
stay close to home and get a ton of money and make endorsements.
Sometimes players who play at their home
don't do so well.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, and then the Celtics had number 3, Jason Tatum.
Yeah, he's a great guard.
And I bring up that because like all of these draft guys grade the draft
nicks.
picks.
Yes.
So these are all A picks. So everybody up until pick number 8, all of the teams got an A, and then the team who picked number 8 got a B for their pick. So
because
their
player wasn't as good.
Of course, that's the New York Knicks and Phil Jackson. So,
I should have suspected that. And who did they get in the first round?
This guy Frank.
They got the French guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't pronounce his last name.
Oh no! Don't try.
You're the
my correspondent will be like telling me we're predicting, we're pronouncing it wrong. So we're not going to do that anymore.
So we covered the draft. And then while we got like a couple of more minutes, and then I'll turn it over to you. But today,
I love it.
Today in Major League history, I just want to say in 1947 at Forbes Field,
Ralph Kiner.
No, Jackie Robinson.
Oh,
he stole home in a 4-2 win over your Pirates.
He's probably out. Is that the? Oh, that's always the one where they show the one all the time where
that's
they talk. I hate that when they always show Jackie Robinson stealing home against the Yankees and he's out. Yeah. He's out by 10 feet. Right. But they called him safe. Right. In fact, Yogi, I think, is catching.
Went to his grave.
Yogi's like, what? But they keep showing it, and I think that's not good.
But interesting. I found it interesting. He stole home 19 times in a 10-year career. But you can go years without seeing somebody do a straight steal.
Well, now they have to do it with a double steal where you send the guy from first, he's stealing second, and catcher throws it down, and the guy takes off from third. That's how you can do it. But I never see anybody. Yeah. In fact, that's a good trivia question. When's the last time somebody stole home?
Yeah.
A straight steal. Yeah. It's going to be tough.
And then the other one is today in baseball history, 1978. Rickey Henderson made his debut and stole his first base of 1,406 in his career.
All right. He probably told everybody he was the best ever after he stole his first one.
Yep. All right. You are listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We're sponsored by Bill Bryant, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. And they're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. And we'll be right back after these messages. We are back with the Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, your community service radio station. And I've got one more thing.
Yeah, I like to hear what you've got because you always have some interesting things that I tend to gloss over.
There is a movement in Major League Baseball among the Latin players to have Roberto Clemente's number retired all through baseball, much like Jackie Robinson.
Okay.
So I wanted to get your opinion on that. And I know Roberto Clemente's one of your favorite guys, right?
Well, he died doing humanitarian work,
right?
And he was a great baseball player, a unique person,
right?
I guess I always back off on these things because I think it opens a can of worms.
Yeah.
And because if you're going to retire his number, there's probably 25 other guys.
Right.
And pretty soon you've got no numbers to play with anymore. Why not retire Willie Mays throughout baseball? Why not? I mean, I don't see the need throughout baseball. Jackie Robinson, for what he stood for,
right?
I'll buy it.
Yeah.
But there's not going to be another one.
Right.
So I mean, and I just don't. If you ask me, it's retired in Pittsburgh. He played his whole career in Pittsburgh,
right.
And I mean, he was humanitarian. He meant a lot to his country. But I can name 40 other.
Sure.
Latin American players, Cubans, Dominican players. I think Roberto Clemente was a Dominican Republic. I might be wrong.
I don't think he is. I think he is, but he died
in Honduras.
Honduras, right?
He died in
Yeah,
Honduras, overloading,
Yeah.
playing the supplies.
Yeah.
But on New Year's Eve in 1972,
Right.
because I remember seeing that on the radio the next day or the television the next day, and I went, "You can't be serious."
Right.
It's Roberto Clemente's dead. But I to me, I guess it would be nice. It's a feel-good move, but the bottom line is you're going to run out of numbers, guys, because there's probably 20 or 30 players with different numbers that you could make a case for
Right.
retiring their number
Yeah.
throughout baseball.
I look at, I think as much as I like the Yankees, I think they made a ridiculous thing with retiring these numbers. They have no more single numbers.
No, well, that's what I mean. They
You know.
but that's what's going to happen throughout the league
Right.
if you keep. There's going to be guys. I mean, why not say Derek Jeter's number should be? Why not throughout baseball? Let's eliminate his number.
Right.
I don't know if dying in a humanitarian plane crash justifies the number. I mean, symbolically, Jackie Robinson, I'll buy it.
Right.
That's about it.
Yeah.
I can't think of another one. So,
Right.
I mean, they're not going to retire Gifton Gopi's number. He was the guy that the Pirates brought up. He was the first African player to make it into Major League Baseball. Now he's back in the minors
Right.
because he can't hit a curveball. And he may or may not ever get up again. But I'm sure there'll be some other African players. But
Right.
if African players become a part of the fabric, what are you going to do? Put his number? I think he was 8. We're gonna
Right.
retire that throughout baseball. I don't see the point to it.
Yeah.
But that's my take on it, my opinion on it.
Right. And it brings up, I guess you could say, we talked a little bit about Ichiro Suzuki.
Yeah.
I mean, do you retire his number? Because I guess he's going to go to the Hall of Fame.
It looks like he will.
And
He's a future Hall of Famer.
Right. So he would be like the first Asian in the Hall of Fame, I believe. I don't think there's another one. I don't even
But
think
then
there's
again, it
anything
opens the door.
close.
Okay, so you're right. He gets it.
Right.
But then why don't we get the first Japanese player
Right.
and put them in the Hall of
Right.
Fame? To me, he earns it. He earns it based on what he's accomplished as a player, not as an Asian
Right.
player. But that's me.
And this may be something I shouldn't bring up.
But go ahead.
One of the things I don't like about the whole Jackie Robinson thing is that Branch Rickey gets short shrift on that, because it actually was Branch Rickey who broke the color barrier.
Well, but he's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, he is, but you never hear him talked about in the same breath as Jackie Robinson, because if there was no Branch Rickey, there would have been no Jackie Robinson.
You're right. You're right. But like I said, conveniently, he's already in. So
Yeah.
but your
Right.
point's well taken.
I just never hear.
He had
that-
the guts to do it.
Yeah, and he got a lot of resistance from.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of.
He got a lot of people
owners
saying,
and-
"Don't do that.
Yep.
That's a mistake."
Yep.
But just eventually, it's an owner that wants to win ball games and
Yep.
realize, hey, there's some talent out
Right.
there that I'm not utilizing.
And-
And by the same token, though, Branch Rickey, you're talking about Roberto Clemente. Branch Rickey sold Roberto Clemente from his AAA Montreal
Right.
franchise to the Pirates
Yeah.
in 1955. Bad move on Branch. You win some, you lose some. But
Right.
yeah, Branch goofed. He didn't do well on that trade
Right.
or that transaction. But no, that's interesting. So we tip our hat to Branch Rickey. He does get considered, I think, for being instrumental in it, and he is in the Hall of Fame. So they don't have to go through a big
Yeah.
rigmarole. He's in. One thing we got a lot of time, and I'm going to talk
Right.
a little bit of baseball, but I'm gonna hit on one of our topics that we seem to hit on every week.
Okay.
But this is instant replay, and again, to me, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that.
Right.
And will somebody please get the film, look at two vantage points
Right.
with 3 umpires and make a decision,
Right.
or go to New York and say, what do you think? Make a decision. But now I've seen, and I mean, these are, I saw a play where a guy, there was a wild pitch and a guy took off late from second and goes to third, and they throw the ball, and he's called out. And naturally, here comes the opposing manager with the hanky.
Right.
And it took him 10 minutes to look at this.
Yeah.
And you know what? It turns out they kept the call because there was no visual evidence to overturn it.
Right.
How long does it take you to determine that?
Right.
I mean, how many visual evidences are we going to examine? To me, they show it. They showed the clip like 8 times, and I said, he's out. And somebody said, yeah, but his left hand might have gotten in there. I said, well, you can't tell.
Well, they were looking at the stadium ATM
Yeah.
camera view. You know, they had to check that one out.
I know,
and,
yeah, but you don't need to.
right.
That just incites the fans if
Right.
if the call went against the home team.
Yeah.
So they're all like, whoa, and they're looking up and watching the replay
Right.
up on replay. But I don't know how many different views you have to look at it under the guise of getting it right. I think I talked about this last week. Don't get it right. The one game I watched where both managers in the first inning challenged calls and lost their ability to challenge any more
Right.
calls, and so nobody seems to give a darn if they're going to get it right the rest of the game.
Right.
They're not allowed to challenge any because they were wrong when they challenged that. And I think that has nothing to do with getting it right. It has to do with you either want to speed the game up or you want to get it right, but you can't do both.
Right.
You can't do both.
Well, I saw one. I forget what game it was. It was an ESPN game, and the guy, there was a close play at second, and I think the guy was, I forget exactly what it was, but the manager used it as an opportunity to get the guy up in the bullpen, because it was like, which so he's out there like discussing whether he's going to challenge it, and in the meantime, he had gotten somebody
He's
up
got
in the
somebody
bullpen.
up in there throwing 50
right. And then he decided that he wasn't going to challenge.
And I'm keeping the hanky. I'm not
Right,
I'm not going
right.
to throw it this time.
But it gave the guy like a minute to because he wound up taking out the pitcher. But it was it's just silly.
It is silly, and but I just wanted to bring that up because that's one of the things that
I do not like replay.
Nips at my craw, and I didn't realize how much I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it a lot.
Right.
So there. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the over-under report. And this is
Can't
tennis
wait.
matches, and this is pretty neat. So we got the Mallorca Open, and I want to tell you that it's a -1 on the over-under because Jana Sipilova lost, and Kristina Pliskova lost, but Anastasia Sevastova won. So you got 1 over 1 and 2 lost. So that's a -1 on the overs. But that's in Mallorca. But then you got to go to the Birmingham, England. And this is always, this can happen. You got Lucia Safarova beating Darlia Gavrilova. So you can't win that one. That's a 1-1. It's a push. I like that. But then you got Petrina Kvitova beat Milanovic. So she came out of nowhere. But bottom line, she won. So it's a 2-1 for the over-under in Birmingham. But it's an 0-1 for the Mallorca Open in Spain. So in Europe, it's a wash. It's two overs, 2 unders, or whatever you want to call it. Bottom line is, and I'm looking at the. They don't have the nerve to put the women's golf scores in. Oh yeah, they did. Let's see if we can find one of our. Here she is. She's 3 under. Thana Polbunyaros, and that's her last name. Doggone it. She's 3 under. So. Let's get her. She's got to shoot lights out. We got to get her on. I want to see her name pronounced and pronounced and pronounced. But they're going to have to call her Yaris or,
Right.
Bowl or something. I don't know what they're going to call her. But so I always get a kick out of that watching the women's golf. Jordan Spieth, by the way, is rocketed to where he is the leader by himself after 2 rounds in the Travelers Tournament in Cromwell. And they're having some rough weather up there. So we'll see what happens.
Right. Hey, I wanted to tell you, speaking of pronouncing names, there is actually a YouTube channel that pronounces, like, famous people's names.
What do you mean? You mean?
So you can hear how it's supposed to be pronounced?
Is she
So
on there?
I didn't look it up.
She's on the ladies
I just,
golf tour.
I just saw one. I saw the
Give me a good one.
actually it wasn't a good one, but it was Truex the
Martin
yeah,
Truex,
yeah.
the driver,
yeah.
race car driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was the one I saw, but I mean, it wasn't a good one.
Is
but
that a hard one to do? T-R-U-E-X.
I just thought it was funny that they actually have a YouTube channel
Yeah,
devoted to
Oh, you gotta,
pronouncing people's names.
and like everything else in the country, somebody will say, well, it should be pronounced this way, so more people will start.
Right.
I used to hate the commercials for ear something or earwax or some product, and they kept calling it tinnitus. It's not tinnitus, it's tinnitus. It always has been tinnitus, which is a ringing in your ears.
Right.
But because it ends in ITIS, somebody didn't bother looking it up, and now everybody, every commercial about ringing in your ears, it's now tinnitus. It's not, it's tinnitus. Look it up. But maybe it's changed. Although it used to be tinnitus when I sold pharmaceuticals, and if it's changed, it's because I blame Tony La Russa for that too. I
Right.
blame him for everything else. It's his fault that they can't pronounce tinnitus.
If it isn't global warming, it's Tony La Russa.
It's El Nino.
Those two things are the root of all evils in the world.
Here's what I know about global warming. If it gets too hot, it's global warming.
Right.
If it gets too cold, it's global warming. And
Right.
because I don't know enough to know how each one affects the other.
When it goes from hot to cold, that's climate change.
Oh, okay. Hot to cold, climate change.
Or
Cold to
vice
hot,
versa.
global
Right.
warming. That makes sense to me. Like I said, I'm not smart enough. I know climate change is now the thing.
Yeah, because that could be anything.
It can be warming or cooling.
Right, right.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense.
Right, and of course, it's all Tony La Russa's fault.
He'll-
They want to blame the oil industry, but it's Tony La Russa's fault.
Tony La Russa is plotting a way to get around that. Right now he's sitting at a table with something. We're gonna find a way to, every time there's a 5-degree increase in the heat, we're gonna turn on all the fans or something. He'll come up with some cockamamie scheme like he did in baseball, and everybody will follow it because hey, he won a couple World Series. Okay, we're gonna do it Tony La
Right.
Russa's way. And like I said, we're almost up to the break, so it gives me a chance before we do a recap of all the teams to talk about the Tony La Russa curse as it applies to relief pitching.
Right.
It can't get worse than it is now, folks. You cannot keep taking pitchers out after 6 innings, and I mean Minnesota pitched a shutout, so they had a guy pitch the 5 innings. Then one guy pitched 2 innings, one guy 1 inning, and one pike. I mean, why can't you just let somebody pitch? I
Yeah.
mean, the guys are pitching well, but and by the same token, you get some other teams. You got St. Louis. They pull Adam Wainwright, and they have 3 guys come in to pitch the last 2 innings, and they lose.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to play like every time somebody comes back from behind, it's the manager's fault. But there is a problem with Toronto. Here's Toronto beating Kansas City 2-0 in the 6th. Kansas City gets a run. Immediately they yank their pitcher and put it in the bullpen. And that guy, I don't understand. If you ask the pitcher, I think he would say, "I wanted to pitch," but I
Right.
just But I guess that's why they pay the money, big money to the managers.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys, it's just tough to watch. It's really tough to watch, and. Well, like I said, we'll talk about what I think are the hot teams and the teams that are making a move in baseball and the teams that are dropping down. I know Baltimore might want to consider giving Ubaldo Jimenez a little bit of a time off. He pitched 2 1/3, gave up 7 hits, 9 runs, and 4 walks. Maybe he could stand a stint in the bullpen to get himself straightened out.
Right.
But far be it from me to make that move. But I love this. By the way, I'm just looking at box scores right now. But that Hamilton, the fastest guy in the majors, that plays center field for Cincinnati. What a crime that guy cannot get on base. He would be. You couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
He's batting .230, 5 at bats, 1 strikeout, never got on base. He'd have 140 stolen bases. You cannot throw that guy. He outruns every ball I've ever seen
Right.
in the field and when he's on the bases. But that's for that. But we'll go back with a recap over the leagues and where they're going in the last 20-minute segment. Thanks,
Very
Greg.
good. You're welcome. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We're sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. And if you listen to the auction show, which you should be doing, they usually auction off an oil change from Bill Bryant. So take advantage of that. We'll be back after these messages. We are back in the Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County, sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. And
Okay, Greg. I was doing a rapid analysis of baseball.
All right.
And before we talk about the teams that are scorching it up and the teams that are stinking it up, I really, if I asked you off the top of your head, the biggest surprise team in the National League, what would be your answer?
The biggest, Colorado Rockies.
Not a bad answer. I got one I think that's better.
Okay.
I think Atlanta Braves are 35-38. The Atlanta Braves last year were horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Right.
I mean, they've got some young players in place. And you know what happened? They've lost Cologne. I mean, they're old guys. I think Dickey's hurt. They lost their guys.
Right.
And they've got some young guys that are really, really picking up the slack. They got Nick Markakis as their old guy, and they got nothing but young guys. But you got to like the fact that they just took their first baseman, Freeman, and said, go play third base because we want to get this Adams guy, and all he can do is play first base.
Right.
And Freeman said, hey, I'll give it a shot. What the heck? That could be a little dangerous.
Right.
But I just find that you're right. I think the Rockies are a very good choice. But the Braves, just because they were so bad, I think they've turned the corner. In the American League, what would be your surprise team of the
Well,
bunch?
you know, you could say Minnesota, but I think the Yankees, even though they're having a little hiccup here, I don't think anybody expected this from the Yankees.
Those are the two. Well, actually, I had Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's 2 games out or 2.5 games out, and they're like built like the Orioles.
Yeah.
They're home run or nothing.
Right.
They got nobody batting with a big batting average. But you know what? These are all things that got to be acknowledged. The fact of the matter is, the Milwaukee Brewers in the National League are still they're 40-36 with no talent.
Right.
I give them a lot of credit. But their division is so bad that they probably can pull it off for a little while.
You know, that's why
the Cubs are eventually going to. Just like I told you last week, here goes Cleveland's starting to pull away.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen, and Chicago's going to start to pull away.
See, that's why I'm skeptical about Atlanta, because Miami, even though they're a little better, the Mets and Philadelphia stink, and Atlanta's been feeding on those two teams.
You're right. I can't argue that. I can't argue that. But it's certainly nobody's fault. Oh,
Yeah.
by the way, one of the things I want to talk to you about, like I said, we talk about hidden agendas. The Marlins beat the Cubs 2-0 last night.
Right.
So what's the lead line? Giancarlo Stanton hit a 458-foot home run.
Right.
That's the story? I mean, why 450? I see nobody else hit a home run that anybody measured. I'm looking at all the recaps of all the games.
Right.
Lots of home runs hit. 5-6 home runs hit in the one game. Nobody talks about how far they are, but Giancarlo Stanton's got an agent or something that really they're promoting the heck out of this home run derby on All-Star night. And I don't think he's going to make the All-Star team, but he might.
Right.
But he's batting 275, 19 homers. I mean, if he makes it, the guy from the Reds should make it. Duvall. It's just hard for me to.
Well, that's the thing you see with Aaron Judge in the on the Yankees. It's always about how far he hits it.
Yeah, and to me, whether it's 40 feet over the wall or 5 feet over the wall is irrelevant.
Well, maybe they need to do a like in the NBA. If you hit it, have like you have the the home run and then have another
Well, give him
wall.
so you give him 2 runs
Yeah,
if he
so
hits
it-
it.
so it counts
if
as
he puts
2,
it at
right,
4.
right.
Well, please be quiet. Your ideas, because a lot of your ideas make sense from a promotional standpoint. I can just see somebody changing that game now.
Right.
You know, here's the home run wall, and if you put it over the thing, and then you can have instant replay to see if the ball carried the second wall.
That's
You have-
right.
We have to slowly, because you can't. No, you have to pay an ump to sit out there between the walls and make the ruling. In fact, he can go like this. He can twirl it with both hands
Right,
if it's
right.
if it's a 2. Then, oh no, keep those ideas to yourself, because I guarantee you they're going to be picked up. I guarantee they're going to be moved on. But
I like when they do the targets, like they have the targets in the stands, and if you hit it,
Oh,
like
yeah.
you get free Big Mac or something.
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's always fun.
Right.
Nobody does it, but that's okay. But like I said, the Nationals are the Nationals. The Dodgers, I think, are the cream of the. I think they're going to be better than Arizona and Colorado. Although I'm not a Puig fan, as you know,
Right.
and he's still only batting under. He's batting under 250, but every time he hits a home run, he does something dumb. And this time he flipped off some fans or something coming around.
Yeah, it was
What
last
did he
week.
do?
This,
Yeah, okay.
This week he took a leisurely stroll.
Well, that's
against
what he
the
did.
Mets.
That's right. This week he hit a home run, and he went out and picked daisies as he's going around.
Right.
And I'm thinking, somebody is going to throw a ball at his ear,
Right.
and we'll see what happens. Won't happen next time they play him, but it's coming. And the problem with playing like him is you're asking for it.
Yeah.
You are asking to be, if you're going to go that slow
Right.
around the bases after you hit a home run, so everybody can see how you're showing up the other team, and you kind of are.
Right.
And I like that just from a competitive standpoint. Then you get a ball in your ear. But I just think he is a loose cannon.
Yeah.
He may be the most talented kid in the league. I don't know. But he is I would really, really would not want him on my team, my
Yeah.
personal opinion. And then he hits a home run. Everybody says, oh, see? Well, I'm sorry. I think he costs you more games a year than he wins, in
Right.
my humble opinion. And while we scoot into the last 5 minutes of the show, this is something I think that's going to take a couple minutes to talk about. And I really have to bite my lip on this because this guy's beloved. But I'm up front. I'm totally against guys making it into the Hall of Fame as a designated hitter.
Yeah.
To me, now, if they can parlay a great 15-year career with 5 years as a DH, that's fine. But if you're going to parlay a 5-year career with a 15-year career as a DH, I'm not sold on it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not being fair. I have nothing against David Ortiz. He seems like a wonderful guy, a great humanitarian, and he's very productive. The fact that he's probably the most productive DH I've seen.
Right.
So that's good on his part. But the guy can't walk. He hits the ball into the right field corner and he only gets a single out of it. And that's it's not a knock on him, but I don't know. It used to be if you were a Hall of Fame player, you weren't a butcher. You weren't. Or you could play the position defensively also.
Yeah.
That is gone by the wayside, right?
Yep.
We've thrown that out for the sake of the almighty home run, because as I see Jim Thome is going to probably get in, and these guys were defensive. I don't want to say they were liabilities. That's too strong a word, but they weren't good defensive players. They were mediocre defensive players.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it. He was a liability in the field. I mean, it was. And I've actually.
Are you talking about Ortiz?
Yeah,
I think he was.
I've actually seen games where he's been at first base and messed things up.
Well, he can't move.
No.
I mean,
No.
But yeah, can he hit? Heck yeah, he can hit. But when you amass numbers, and we're going to be faced with this now, every Hall of Fame induction class,
Right.
and he's not going to be up for 5 years, obviously.
Right.
But it's you're going to see numbers get skewed to the point. I mean, if I can sit there and all I have to do is get out and hit the ball, I'm going to put up some good numbers. I'll put up I'll play for 25 years. I'll hit 540 homers. I'll hit 600 homers, and probably bat 270. I mean, that's where a lot of these players are going.
Right.
Baltimore, I mean, these guys, Trumbo guys, I mean, if they start rocketing home runs all over the place, they sure can't field. So I don't know if it matters or not. Maybe that doesn't make a difference. As we all know, the only important thing about baseball is scoring runs. So we're not interested in the other side of the game. I'm being sarcastic, tongue in cheek. If you couldn't tell, you could, I'm sure.
Well,
But,
he has the stench of steroids on him, and when you look at his first, how many years? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, he really didn't hit home runs.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
He started hitting 35.
he started hitting 30, 40, and
yeah.
50 home runs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
The thing about him is, if you brought up steroids, and I don't know if you've seen this, but
No.
he gets so agitated with sports writers that I think they fear for their lives. So nobody.
Oh, that's
nobody
smart
brings it up.
Smart strategy on
Yeah.
his part.
Yeah.
Because then
Yeah.
nobody will bring it up, so you don't have to face it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, like
and,
I said,
and you look at the other guy who was his compatriot there, Manny Ramirez.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, the guy. How many tests did he fail? I mean,
lots.
Yeah. And I don't want to say guilt by association, but Ortiz did fail a drug test that wasn't supposed to be wasn't supposed to be released, but he was among that group in that time that they did the testing to see whether they wanted to do testing all across the board every year.
Well, I like I said, just on what I got a chance to watch him as a DH, and he is, as you know, I'm an anti-clutch hitter. I don't talk about clutch hitter. I talk about productive hitters.
Right.
And he's especially productive, and he comes through a lot for big hits at key times in games. But he also fails.
Yeah.
A lot. So, but the fact of the matter, he is beloved in Boston.
Yeah.
His numbers scream, put me in the hall,
Right.
and I'll bet he ends up in it. But it bothers me in the sense that he can't run and can't field.
Right.
But maybe that's not important anymore for the Hall of Fame. It's
Right.
all offensive numbers.
Right.
Although Rizzuto and Mazeroski sure didn't get in on offensive numbers.
Right.
So maybe I'm making a tempest in a teapot. I don't know.
Well, as much again as I like the Yankees, I don't think Phil Rizzuto should be in the Hall of Fame either. But
As an announcer,
maybe he was. He certainly was colorful and entertaining.
Holy cow! Yeah,
Yeah.
he was. He was colorful. But well, it's interesting. And finally, I'm looking at Bush joins Romney in pursuit of Marlins. How
Yeah,
about that?
right. And
So you
I guess
Jeb, that's Jeb Bush.
yeah, I guess Derek Jeter is out.
Yeah, he's gone. He's out of it.
Right. So
But so you got, I guess if you fail in your presidential bid in the Republican Party, you can go buy the Marlins. Yeah, well, okay. Bush and Jeter, 14-time All-Star shortstop, led rival groups pursuing the Marlins. They joined forces, but Bush dropped out in May. Now they're rivals again, and Jeter is still exploring a bid with other investors. So
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So that would be, you know what, if you had the money, and I'm sure he's smart and he saved up the money, that would be a very viable, good, smart
Oh yeah.
thing to do.
Yeah.
Get a sports franchise.
Right.
Get a, in a town where everybody loves you and knows who you are, and
What surprises me is how difficult they're finding it to raise. That it's okay. I mean, I guess their asking price is $2 billion.
yeah.
But
that's a lot of money.
There's guys out there. There's billionaires out there.
Oh, that it could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
sure.
and I mean, if you have like Derek Jeter on your team as an investor, if I had a couple of $1 billion, I would do it.
Why not? I mean, yeah, you're right. But that was one of the things, the baseball tidbits that I wanted to talk about, because I'm glad they gave him a statue. I'm glad he got a street named after him. But everybody would say, and here he is, future Hall of Famer David Ortiz,
Right.
future Hall of Famer. And I'm thinking, I guess if you say it long enough to somebody, they'll start to believe it.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, his numbers are really good,
Yeah.
but no luck. If he was doing some other things on the field, I'd say his numbers are almost like Winfield, or I mean, I think Winfield played a long time in the field and was pretty good. Andre
Right.
Dawson played a long time before his knees gave out,
Right.
and they were pretty good outfielders. I didn't see much from Ortiz defensively.
No.
So, but like I said,
Well,
no picking on him. I think it seems to be a foregone conclusion.
I have a feeling that his entry into the Hall of Fame is not going to be so automatic,
you may be right.
because I think he rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
You may be right.
I think it goes to the hometown. The hometown guy could never do wrong, but once you leave that hometown
Then
area,
you find
it's
out.
Like, hey, wait
Oh,
a second, this guy is not.
Well, there's no
as,
question. Like I said, and a perfect example is, while Pittsburgh right now is absolutely in love with Sidney Crosby,
Right.
you as an outsider say he's a whiner and he's a that, and
Right.
I don't necessarily think you're wrong. So I can remove myself from the group.
Yeah.
And I see Sidney as a pain in the neck guy who's always yapping.
Right. Well, you know what? If
He's a good player, but he's a yapper.
if he got signed by the Rangers, he'd be my favorite player.
That's what I mean. Well, that's how it works.
Right.
But and same thing with Ben. Ben Roethlisberger is
Right.
beloved in Pittsburgh, I
Yeah.
think, but I'm not sure Ben floats everybody's boat the right way outside of Pittsburgh.
Right.
So but that's what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, actually, he's probably a bad example. I mean, he had his one big problem there, and where that girl accused him
Yeah,
of
yeah.
inappropriate conduct. And
Yeah.
apparently she was paid off or whatever.
Well, and that's okay.
but then
too.
he's pretty much behaved himself.
He really has.
I haven't heard, that sort of stuff. Whereas Ortiz, he's dropping the F-bomb and.
Yeah.
I mean, you get him riled up. I mean, you ask him a question he doesn't like, he attacks you.
Yeah.
So I think he's kind of a bully in that regard.
Well, whatever. We've run out of time, but I'll tell you what. This was a fun couple hours, and
Yes.
I appreciate everybody staying with us. I appreciate Trent giving us a nice call
Yep.
to give us a word-of-mouth rundown of the great trip that they had to the Netherlands playing soccer. I think that's fantastic. Thanks again to the coach, George, and thanks again to Randy, and thanks again to you, Greg.
Thank you,
Take
sir.
us out. Thanks again.
I will. Thank you. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports. We thank you for listening to us here on WQBQ 1410 every Saturday from 10 to noon. We're sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. Stay tuned, Ralph, with River Jordan and Friends. He's coming up next right after these messages. Have a great weekend, everyone.